A very good evening, Eswatini. This is Eswatini TV News Bulletin 8, read to you by myself, Notile Sitole. First up, here's a look at tonight's headlines. Eswatini has sent condolences to Equatorial Guinea following an accident at a military base that claimed dozens of lives. Zingeni Member of Parliament says the country's budget should support the youth. The Eswatini Revenue Authority has arrested 41 non-tax compliant businesses. And now our bulletin in detail. On behalf of His Majesty King Mswati III, Her Majesty the Queen Mother, government and the people of Eswatini, the acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku has sent condolences to the President of Equatorial Guinea, Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasoko, the government and the people of Equatorial Guinea in learning about the shocking accident at a military base in the port city of Bata that sadly took dozens of lives, injuring hundreds and further causing severe destruction of property. Masuku says it is Eswatini's hope and prayer that the Almighty God will comfort the next of kin, friends, and the entire people of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea during this time of loss of their loved one. On another note, on behalf of His Majesty King Mswati III, Her Majesty the Queen Mother, government and the people of Eswatini, the acting Prime Minister Themba Masuku has sent condolences to the President Mokwetsi Masisi, the government and the people of the Republic of Botswana in learning about the demise of His Excellency Archibald Mongwe, former Minister of International Affairs and Cooperation of the Republic of Botswana, who died on the 25th of February 2021. Masuku says it is Eswatini's hope and prayer that God will comfort the next of kin and friends, the government and the people of Botswana during this dark hour of loss. Zingeni Member of Parliament Lutho Dlamini says the national budget should be supportive to the youth. Dlamini says these young people also include artists who have not been making money due to COVID-19. Dlamini said this in the House of Assembly on Tuesday.
Young people were at the heart of Zingeni Member of Parliament Lutho Dlamini's budget speech debate in the House of Assembly on Tuesday. Dlamini pointed out that the budget should consider young people. Dlamini submitted that government had to establish more funds to cater for the youth. He added that this included artists who also needed financial assistance now more than ever due to the effects of COVID-19.
Let us seriously talk about job creation. The situation is not looking good. And as convincing as sikhuluma ngayo nje ezimpassing i-RSTP tabe yehlulekile nangakafaki kuma-Wi-Fi letikudleni so that the young people nananathi nyalo nje sesiqale ne-virtual basenza bebakhala itolo ukuthi kuyiphi network le. Is this by design? Even in Menendawa we can't have the network.
Dlamini submitted that his constituency was open to government piloting the installation of Wi-Fi at their Inkundla. He said this would show government how efficiently the youth would use it to develop themselves. The House then adjourned and it is expected to sit again on Wednesday. Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, Parliament.
Eswatini Revenue Authority has arrested about 41 business people who have allegedly been non-tax compliant. About 11 businesses have been closed for suspicions of illegally importing goods into the country. Dlamini says this is part of their strategy to ensure that everyone who is supposed to pay tax complies with local tax regulations.
As the saying goes, you can run, but you cannot hide. The Eswatini Revenue Authority seems to be applying just that, as it has embarked on an operation to bust non-compliant businesses. The taxman was in and out of stores in Babane and Manzini, checking, among other things, if all goods and shops were imported into the country legally. Eswatini Revenue Authority Head of Corporate Communications, Vusi Dlamini, says they also checked if companies were registered for tax. Dlamini says they were further verifying if the businesses paid their taxes.
I think we have been able to touch more than 50 businesses. I think in today's operations where about 23 business people were arrested in Manzini and 18 were arrested in Babane. And then we are also expecting that these businesses will appear in court tomorrow on Wednesday, and in both Babane and Manzini. And we also have observed that there are those that seemingly are importing goods into the country, but they cannot show to us how they imported the goods into the country. We have got 11 businesses that, in line with our Customs and Excise Act, we had to actually close down and basically lock them up in order to verify what exactly is happening, and we hope that they can be dealt with administratively. If not, and then they can take the court rule.
Dlamini says owners of business premises that were closed have to appear before the authority and prove that the goods found were imported into the country legally. He also says those who have been arrested will appear before court on Wednesday. This operation is not targeted at anyone, but it is only a way of ensuring that everyone pays to Caesar what is due to him as per local tax laws. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Ezulwini.
The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade urges individuals who will be interested in buying businesses which are currently on sale to consult them first in order to get its details to avoid possibly incurring its costs. This was said by the Director of Small and Medium Enterprises, MLAWULA Dlamini, when explaining the process of selling a business.
The Director of Small Medium Enterprises, MLAWULA Dlamini, says they have seen the growing number of advertisements of businesses which are put up on sale. He advises anyone willing to buy a business to consult the ministry first before making any transactions.
We advise businesses to come to our offices with their deed of sale for those businesses that they've purchased, so that the transfer of the businesses can be effected to the new owners. And it will also help them to understand what sort of outstanding license fees are there in the system, so that as they purchase, they are aware of the monies that they need to pay. And also the issue of, you mentioned earlier on that the issue of the employees. Even then, the Minister of Labour will assist them in terms of whether they continue with the new directorship or they get their terminal benefits. And we make sure that before we effect any transfers, those licenses will be advertised for the general public and the business community to object within a reasonable time, so that they are able to know that this business is now under new ownership. And we also ensure that in terms of the lease agreement, the new owner of that particular business should be able to say, now I have a lease agreement, I can run that business.
The Deputy Commissioner in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Kingdom Mamba, in a telephonic interview said if a business is sold and the new owner inherits the employees, they should be paid all their terminal benefits from the previous employer. He says an employee has a right to refuse to work for the new owner. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ndlangamandla with Muzi Mkhonda in Babane.
The High Court has sentenced Paido Siboniso Nyampiri to 28 years imprisonment for the murder of a taximan. The court has also sentenced the convict to 15 years imprisonment for robbery. The sentence has been handed down by Judge Ngulego Hlophe on Tuesday.
Judge Ngulego Hlophe has sentenced Paido Siboniso Nyampiri, who was found guilty on 6 counts. These include the murder of taximan Victor Ngabeni Dlamini and robbing him his Honda Fit in 2015. For murder, Nyampiri was sentenced to 28 years imprisonment. For robbery, he was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment, and 5 years will be for theft. Other counts are legal possession of a firearm, for which he will serve 5 years, or pay a fine of 5,000 emalangeni. For illegal possession of 3 live rounds of ammunition, he will serve 3 years or pay a fine of 3,000 emalangeni. Nyampiri was also found guilty of entering and remaining in the country without a permit, for which he was sentenced 6 months imprisonment or a fine of 600 emalangeni. The court ruled that counts of murder and robbery run concurrently. Other charges that will run concurrently are illegal possession of a firearm and unlawful possession of live rounds of ammunition. The sentence will be backdated to July 2015 when the convict was arrested. Before imposing the sentence, the court said the deceased died for his car and cell phone. It said the deceased was unsuspecting and only conducting his business to provide for his family. The court said the sentence had to serve as a lesson and deterrent to others who may think of committing the same offense in the kingdom. The court said it considered that the convict was slightly younger than 18 years of age when he committed the offense. It also said it had no doubt that had he committed same as an adult, he would have been handed the capital sentence. The court further said the crime was premeditated with the intention to rob the deceased his Honda Fit. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, High Court.
In a bid to prevent water scarcity at MLAWULA Game Reserve, the Eswatini National Trust Commission is looking to construct artificial water points at the nature reserve. According to Eswatini National Trust Commission's Director of Parks Thulan Methula, these water points will assist in harvesting water for game.
In 2015, game in MLAWULA Game Reserve died due to drought. There were also a number of issues that were observed, such as overgrazing around the water sources. According to the Director of Parks, Thulan Methula, the construction of the Artificial Water Points program will allow access to water to the wall of the game reserve.
MLAWULA River is a bit annual because it doesn't flow all year round. It usually gets dries up during the winter season or during drought years. So that's the challenge that we have with it. Yet the Mbuluzi River covers about 10% of our population because of its location within the nature reserve. So which means that about 80% to 90% of our nature reserve has no perennial water source. Hence we have seen the need to establish some water sources through earth dams and other artificial means to ensure that we have some artificial water sources within the nature reserve. So that is what we are currently working on. That one is looking at addressing some of the challenges that we had in 2015 during the drought, the last heavy drought that we had as a country in 2015, whereby at MLAWULA we lost a lot of our game due to challenges of water availability near the food source. So right now we are working on that to mitigate or to manage such going forward. And secondly, also having these artificial water points at strategic areas will help in terms of animal distribution. As I've indicated that about 80 to 90% of the park has got no perennial water source. So the animals then get to congregate on one end, which then results in overgrazing and other negative impacts that come with that within the nature reserve. So we're looking at improving that aspect in terms of ensuring improving animal distribution.
Methula stated that there are also other ways they are looking into, such as tightening security, as poachers might take chances when they know exactly where they can find the wild animals. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Lobamba.
Lavumisa Police Station Commander Amos Dlamini says they have met with the local town board and devised a strategy for strengthening good hygiene and safety measures for customers in shopping outlets in the town. He says the program aims at raising awareness on discerning the difference between food that is past its due date.
Following an inspection that was conducted by the regional COVID-19 compliance task team at Lavumisa, where many of the shops were found to be selling food items that have passed their due-by date, Lavumisa Police Station Commander Amos Dlamini says in respect of their objective for livelihood as well as welfare of the people, they have formulated an awareness program aimed at educating residents in their zones to enhance their knowledge, attitudes and practices towards purchasing food that is safe for consumption.
So we've been to the office of Mr. Mtupa, who is the CEO of Lavumisa town, and we've sat around the table and discussed issues whereby, amongst many, we have said that we start by educating the business forum around the Lavumisa, including the citizens, on how they should go about whenever they go to the shops to buy anything. in terms of the expiry date and the validity of those things they are buying in the shops. We have looked at our police objectives, whereby we are to protect the life of the citizens in the country. We will try and zone the area of Lavumisa area and assist the town board in engaging them, including looking at the COVID-19 regulations, whereby we are limited in terms of having those forums in numbers and raise that awareness. But despite that, it doesn't mean that on daily basis, if we discover anything, we won't enforce the law. We will be enforcing the law either by individuals or by us whenever it happens that we've been to those shops and discover those items that are not safe from the health of the citizens.
Lavumisa Town Board CEO Manzim Tupa urged all traders to not take advantage of consumers by selling them foods that have passed their due-by date. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Sifiso Ngumalo. It's Muvashongwe at Lavumisa.
Eswatini Principal Association's President Welcome Mhlanga says some schools, both primary and high schools, are forced to retrench their support staff because of money challenges the schools are facing. Mhlanga was speaking in Mbabane when explaining the issues faced by principals amidst the reopening of schools.
The first case of COVID-19 in Eswatini was recorded in March last year when schools had already made orders for learning materials that pupils and teachers needed. Speaking in an exclusive interview, Eswatini Principal Association's President Welcome Mhlanga says schools had to divert some monies that were meant for other activities such as speech and prize, sports, and others for schools to be able to operate during the reopening of schools in September.
Singathokodela kuyithola leliya sala eminyakeni lophila ikakhulu kulabo vele bebangabhadala labo bakhiphela okuncane.
Mhlanga says schools are already in debt and they are forced to retrench support staff such as secretaries, among others. Mhlanga urges parents to cooperate with head teachers. He says that the Ministry of Education encourages parents to make means of paying for their children for crucial programs in schools to continue. He says even though schools might open, there is a great need for head teachers to provide schools with materials such as tablets and data to conduct online lessons. The government of Eswatini, through the Ministry of Education, has already paid for pupils in primary schools in an effort to ensure that schools are able to operate. The ministry has also supplied over 70% of schools with hand washing stations for pupils to use to prevent the spread of COVID-19 when schools open. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni in Mbabane.
Pupils who are part of the Junior Achievement Program under Financial Literacy have received their partial payments from their savings. According to JA's Director Petile Masilela, the highest money withdrawal from the savings is 860 MLAWULA. Masilela was speaking in an interview with Eswatini TV News.
The pupils who received their partial payout saved for 2 years. According to the Junior Achievements Director, Petile Masilela, the pupils were able to save even during the partial lockdown. Masilela says some of the pupils who withdrew their money were changing schools.
We had 10 schools that continued to save. These children that continued to save even last year, they did it because I think they were able to identify opportunities where they can make money while they are at home, even at family level. They continue to save, and we are quite excited to see such resilience among young children because it shows that they are disciplined, they are committed to what they are doing. We have a theme of saying you save for it. So we encourage the children to save for a certain objective or purpose, whether they want to buy some school material that they need, or they want to buy Christmas clothes, whatever that would make them happy and it's of value to them. We say it's okay, you can save for that. But we had an annual general meeting on 2018, I think, with the students. That is where it was discussed that you save for a period of 2 years and then you can start withdrawing. Reason being, they save small amounts, so it's not easy to do the transactions back and forth because of the charges. So we encourage them to say, okay, a period of 2 years is reasonable, so they agreed to that. That is why now we are having some schools that have withdrawn their monies. Basically, it's the students that have withdrawn their monies. Conditions of withdrawal, maybe you are changing schools. Like now, some students are leaving primary school, they are going to high school. If you change schools because maybe the school you are going to is not having the JA program, it's okay for you to withdraw your savings.
The financial literacy program is supported by Eswatini Bank and schools registration is open. About 55 online applications have been received from local high school and secondary schools. For Eswatini TV News, Ndomlangeni in Manzini.
The Eswatini Revenue Authority urges individuals and business people to file their tax returns on the e-tax filing system on time to avoid backlogs, which might in turn lead to late filing of taxes. This was said by the authority's head of communications, Vusi Dlamini, who explained that this then draws unnecessary penalties.
Last year, the Eswatini Revenue Authority introduced the e-tax filing system meant for businesses and individuals to submit their tax returns through digital means. The head of communications at the authority, Vusi Dlamini, says some of the challenges they face is that there are some individuals who still wait till the last day to submit their tax returns, which leads to late payments.
We can do much better. We were expecting that the taxpayers that are not registered for VAT, the small and medium enterprises, they would have submitted their returns by end of January, and we saw some response, but it was not a satisfactory response. We also were expecting that by end of February, individuals who are ordinarily expected to be submitting returns in line with the notice that was issued by the Commissioner General would also have submitted their returns. Some submitted, we appreciate, but we still have those that have not submitted, and we encourage that they should actually submit. We're also expecting that the big businesses will be submitting their returns at the end of March, so we are encouraging them to ensure that everything is ready for them to be able to submit their returns without any hassles. We have seen a few challenges during the process of submitting these returns. I think one of the key ones is the fact that a lot of people, a lot of Swazis would normally take time to submit whatever they are expected to submit in terms of the returns, and you find that they leave it to the last day, which then unfortunately result into some challenges. Obviously, with many systems, you will know that if everyone is doing this thing at the same time, there will be those challenges.
Deputy President of the Federation of Eswatini Business Community, Hezekiel Mabuza, in a telephonic interview says the late filing of tax returns for some businesses is caused by that they have not acquainted themselves enough with technology. He encouraged them to embrace it as it is now the new way of life. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ndlangamandla with Muzi Mkhonda at Ezulwini.
Good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Now we'll have a look at our sports news. Eswatini Football Association President Adam Tsetwa says the association will soon find a suitable venue to host the national team. Sihlangu Semnikati's encounter against Guinea-Bissau in the AFCON qualifiers. Tsetwa says the association will decide whether to use Dobsonville or Orlando Stadium in South Africa.
AFCON qualifiers encounter between Sihlangu Semnikati against Guinea-Bissau, the National Football Association seem to have secured the venue for the fixture. This follows the ban from CAF when they suspended Mafso Sports Center for lack of international standards to host the game.
That process has started.
Speaking to Eswatini TV Sports, Msetwa says that the situation is edging closer as now they have two stadiums to select from, which is between Dobsonville, that is used by Morocco Swallows, and Orlando Stadium, that is normally used by Orlando Pirates, both playing under the DStv Premiership.
Rental of lama stadiums, and lesikhuluma wamanje lengicabanga ukuthi you will inform the public ukuthi kuhamba kanjani.
On another note, both TSC Galaxy Stars, Felix Berenhorst and Justice Figueredo have been called by the national team to be part of the squad. The game will be played on the 26th of this month. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, Mbawane.
The Secretary General of the Eswatini Badminton Association, Sihle Mokoena, says the lack of finances to ensure the development of the sport immensely contributed to them being deregistered by the Olympic Association in the country. The decision to terminate the membership of the association was taken during an annual general meeting of the Olympic Association.
During the annual general meeting of Eswatini Olympic Commonwealth Games Association that was conducted virtually, 3 local sporting associations were terminated for lack of meeting required standards to be an association. Badminton Association was amongst the terminated association, where the Secretary General Sihle Mokoena highlighted lack of enough finances as one of their main setbacks.
We found ourselves having limited human resource. And then, of course, we found ourselves limited to those few facilities. And yes, they are there, but still they were very expensive for the sport to actually acquire for whatever that we would need to use the facilities for.
Other associations to be suspended are weightlifting and lawn bowls associations. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Linda Dlamini, Mbabane.
Well, Eswatini, that is all we had for you this evening. Before we conclude, here's a relook at tonight's headlines. Eswatini has sent condolences to Equatorial Guinea following an accident at a military base that claimed dozens of lives. Zingeni Member of Parliament says the country's budget should support the youth. The Eswatini Revenue Authority has arrested 41 non-tax compliant businesses. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from myself and the team here at Eswatini TV. Thank you for watching. Good night.